Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Gawag, Nashayaah, Raash, which is Hebrew for Gog, the chief prince. All right. And that comes directly from the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. And just going to hit a couple of points on that. The head prince or the chief prince. And this is pretty much just a map, that somebody put together of the different regions, and this is prophetic for today. So Lord's will, we'll get into it. I wanted to do this lesson earlier. I just really wasn't in the spirit. Then I had to go pick my mom up and, take her to go do what she had to do. And, I'm just hoping that this will be an edifying lesson. I was going through this earlier, and I just wanted to make a few points or hit a couple of points on this. Just going through the chapter and just doing a little research and looking up a few things. And like I said, Lord's will, it'll be an edifying lesson. This is a prophetic breakdown, and it's a prophecy of the last days. And some prophecies are just straight up, boom, 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 1, 2, 3. Other prophecies, you have a lot of history that's involved in it. Like, for instance, when you try to break down Daniel the 11th chapter, there's a lot of history there. So it's not always easy to sit down and to do like a somewhat of a thorough breakdown, to go through each verse, and be able to break it down in one sitting. Even back in the 90s, when we actually went through it, when the elder pastor used to come up on Wednesday nights and Saturdays, to Wednesday nights would be the class, Saturday nights would be the speaking, and we would have a class afterwards. And we would be there till the wee hours of the morning, sometimes. And when we went through Daniel the 11th chapter, it took us like 3 weeks, in other words, 3 classes, coming, the apostle coming back 3 weeks, because he used to come down every week. So about 3 weeks it took us to go through that breakdown, and over the years we kept going over it and perfecting it more and more, and by the way, Daniel the 11th chapter already happened. It's not going to happen today. You can't take certain verses and apply them to today. You could use certain verses to make a point from history and then, say that something similar to it may happen today. But as far as Daniel the 11th chapter, that prophecy has been fulfilled long time ago, Tony. So let's just get into it. This is Ezekiel 38. It says, "And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog," which that's where you get the word Gawag. That's the Hebrew word of way of saying it. According to the blue letter, it means mountain. I know that the Hebrew word for mountain is har, which is either mountain or hill. But I guess this is another way of saying mountain, which could also represent, because it's going to say the chief prince. So it could be like mountain as far as maybe saying like someone that's in charge. Like when scriptures speak about mountains, sometimes it's talking about an actual mountain. Sometimes it's talking about governments, especially bigger governments, and then the smaller governments would be classified like hills. All right. So it says, set thy face against Gog and the land of Magog. All right. And as you can see here on this map, this is the land of Magog. This is Gog, because this, as you've heard Elder Pastor say years ago, this was pretty much no man's land up here, back then. You had barbarians that lived in certain areas, but for the most part, it wasn't really inhabited like it is today. It wasn't built up. All right, so this right here is just a depiction of, you know, in a lot of these different lands, when the kingdom is established, we're going to know exactly what borders were what. You know, right now it's just pretty much a game of, you know, as so-called estimations, for lack of better words. All right, because when the kingdom of heaven is established, we're going to know every detail of everything, which we can't get today, because all we need today is just what we have. And we have, you know, the necessary tools we need to break the scriptures down. You know, and when the scriptures are when the kingdom of heaven is set up, then we'll be able to get all the other little nooks and crannies that were missed in this society. All right, so it says the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Now the chief prince, this is where you get the word chief, is the word Raash, which means head, and the prince is Nashayaah. And the way that it's written when you read it is Nashayaah Raash. You know, so that's why it's written the way it is, because what in the English is written chief prince. In the Hebrew is written prince chief. All right, Nashayaah Raash. And that's why the name of the lesson is Gawag, which is Gog, Nashayaah, which is prince, Raash, which is chief or head. All right. Then it says Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Now, Meshech and Tubal, let me bring this. Let me see if I have that in here. Spare me 1 second. Salaki, this map is a little hazy. I don't know why, but it is what it is. Let's go here. Let's type in Meshech and Tubal. Meshech and Tubal map. And it should give you the land of Turkey. Right. This one here, let me see how. Nah, that's too small. Sometimes those small maps, when you try to make them bigger, they get. All right, let's see this one. This one is 400. What's this one here? 297. Nah. Let me see. Sometimes the small ones, they say it's small, but then it appears bigger. I guess this is okay. As you can see here, I'll make it a little bigger. Right there, Meshech and Tubal. This region of land, I believe it's parts of this here and this here. This is Turkey today, modern day Turkey. All right. And you have Meshech and Tubal within Turkey. All right. And this is important to know because it's a part of the prophecy. All right. So it says, and prophesy against him, because the prophecy is against Meshech and Tubal. And then when you look up what we showed you already in the Hebrew, Nashayaah Raash. Now we go to the 3rd verse. And it says, and say, thus saith the Lord, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Like I said, we're going to get back to it, to this Meshech and Tubal, when we read a little further down. It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks in thy jaws, because at one time Gog, or Raash, or Nashayaah, how does it go? Nashayaah Raash. All right. They were what's the word I'm looking for? They were a Soviet nation, which is still a Soviet Union, but back then they were known as the USSR, which is the United Soviet Socialist Republic. And pretty much at that time, they're still militant, but they were more together, as far as the expansion of their empire. They were one of the biggest empires back then. And then eventually, I believe that was in the 90s, they broke up. I think it was 91 or something like that. They had broken up, and became separate states, so it kind of hurt Russia, and the Lord is saying that he's going to turn them back to those communistic ways when they were, even harder than they are right now, and put hooks into that jaw. So when you put hooks in somebody's jaws, what happens? They turn you back, right? And I will bring thee forth in all thine army, because the Lord is going to use Russia and his whole military. You know, the majority of the military is going to be brought down into, you know, what the scriptures call the Valley of Jehoshaphat or Armageddon. When we go to Ezekiel chapter 39, that damn juice that spilled on my keyboard is making the letters stick a little bit, but as I keep hitting them, they break up. I mean, I got another one in there, but you know, I didn't really feel like messing with it. So here we got Ezekiel 39:1. It says, "Therefore, thou son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, Thus saith the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and leave but the sixth part of thee." So the Lord is going to break the military of Russia up into 6 parts. One part is going to be left at home, you know, to protect the homeland or the fatherland, and the other 5 parts of their military is going to be sent out right up into the Valley of Jehoshaphat. And I will cause thee to come up from the north, see, because that's where they're at. They're in the north parts, and will bring thee upon the mountains of Israel, because there's going to be a super major war that's going to be taking place, and some of the key players are going to be Russia, to bring total or rain total nuclear war upon the land of Israel right now, you know, in these times. So going back to Ezekiel 38, says horses and horsemen. So the horses and horsemen today, because nobody really fights wars anymore the ancient way, like it states in Isaiah, the 9th chapter, you know, that the old wars were fought with men on the battlefield, you know, screaming and yelling with swords, blood, you know, and all of that. Today, wars are fought with, you know, fuel of fire. You know, it's fought by drones. They're fought by dropping bombs. They you know, they shoot, you know, bullets from tanks. You know, just different things like that. You know, they don't fight the conventional warfare that they did in the past. I mean, you still have your skirmishes and soldiers on the battlefield, but for the most part, it's fought by missiles. So this horses and horsemen is a representation of their military might, you know, which is their missiles, their tanks, their planes, you know, so on and so forth. It says all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, because this is their military. Even a great company with bucklers and shields. All right. All of them handling swords. Now, what I have here, I believe this is a longer video, like an hour and some change, but I found this. It says Russia marks 75th Victory Day anniversary with spectacular Red Square military parade. And I believe this is something they do once a year. They may do it more than that, but they're showing you their military power. This happened to me 2 years ago, but look at the actual military of Russia. You know, they're more equipped, you know, to fight in these battles, you know, with the, you know, because they're harder than the American soldiers. They're harder than most militaries, because they're not brought up, you know, the way that Americans are brought up. They're brought up through that hard, you know, rigorous training, super hard, rigorous training. Now you do have some, let me try to get, you know, look at that. You know, like you do have some, you know, groups like the Green Berets and others, special, you know, forces that are hard in America, but all of these, the majority of these Russian soldiers are hard and hardened. You know, so I'm trying to see if we got any good. Let me see what else we can glean out for here. Trying to get to the marching. There we go. Look at that. And they're showing off their military power. That's from China. Now here goes, they're about to show the hardware. the horses and the horsemen clothed with bucklers and shields. Boom, there you go. You got your tanks. You know, you're gonna have your they also bring out the nuclear missiles out there. And they put on a show, and those missiles that they show you in, you know, these parades are gonna actually be used. See, that's the thing, you know, they're parading it around, but these things are gonna actually be used. You know? There you go. It's about to come up. Boom. You know, so these weapons are gonna actually be used. Look at that. These are all missiles. Look at that. There you go. That's the heavy duty artillery right there. You know? And this is what's going to actually be used. So this is what the scriptures is talking about the military, about their, you know, their horses and horsemen, handling shields, you know. And there you go. That's the big boy right there. That's the big boss right there. That is a total annihilation of Esau's system, their empire. That's the bad boy right there. Some bad boys right there. You know, they go to helicopters, you know, part of their angel squads. You know, here goes some. There go your some more of those angels in the skies. Their stealth bombers, whatever the case may be. So this all part of their military. And that's just because they don't bring their whole arsenal out. It's just part of, you know, their arsenal. You know, and they're coming from where? From the north parts. Because they're coming from up Chia. And remember, this is a prophecy of the end times. You know, so there's no other time when Gog and Magog are mentioned in the scriptures. You know, except for these two places and also in the book of Revelation. When you go, let me see something. Just bear with me 1 second. Just bear with me 1 second. I'm sorry. Also, it also appears in Genesis 10, Magog. But the word Gog does not appear there. Okay. You got Meshach, which all of these lands, Tubal here, all these lands going towards the south, they were actually lands of Japhet. You know, but Esau took over those lands. Just like the Greeks. The modern day Greeks are not the ancient Greeks of the true Yawan or Javan. You know, those peoples that used to inhabit those lands were people of color, which today would be classified as so-called Polynesian peoples. You know, so there you go, Gomer, Ashkenaz. So all of those lands, Togama, all of those lands there that are in Europe, those used to be Japhet's lands that Esau took over. But in prophecy today, they play a major part and a major role. And the people that are there today, which are Edomites, that's going to be some of the ones that's going to get down in this destruction. All right, so let's get back to this. To Ezekiel 38. All of them handling swords, and we saw some of the swords. Now it says here Persia. Who is Persia? Today Persia would be known as Iran, because Persia name was changed from Persia to Iran back in 1935. You know, which Iran goes back to a name where you get the word Aryan from. All right, the original Aryan race, which the word Aryan means noble, the original Aryan race were the Elamites, or the so-called East Indians. And just like everything else, Esau hijacked that for themselves, and these skinheads call themselves the Aryan race, you know, because they're trying to take on that name like they do with everything else. But the original Aryan race were the so-called East Indians or the Elamites. So that was the ancient name for Iran was Persia. Right now, what I did was I typed in relations between Russia and Iran, which is Persia. Iran and Russia are also military allies in the conflicts in Syria and Iraq and partners in Afghanistan and post-Soviet Central Asia, and shares a common interest in suppressing Sunni Islamism and pan-Sunni political groups. The Russian Federation is also the chief, I didn't know that was there, supplier of arms and weaponry to who? Iran, which is Persia. And you could do the research. When was Persia's name changed to Iran? It's going to tell you 1935. All right. So the chief prince, all right, Nashayaah Raash. So that's Persia. That's Iran. Then it says what? Ethiopia, which the ancient Ethiopians, their name was Cush or Kawash. All right. So now let's just move this here. It says relations between Russia and Ethiopia. Both countries established diplomatic relations on April 21st, 1943. Russia currently has an embassy in Addis Ababa, and Ethiopia has an embassy in Moscow. All right. Was Ethiopia a USSR ally? Of course. At that point, the Soviet Union adopted Ethiopia as its main ally in the Horn of Africa. In late November, it launched a massive airlift and sea lift of arms and other military equipment to Ethiopia. All right? So keep that in mind. The arms, they're supplying Iran, which ancient name was Persia. They're supplying, they're allies with them. They're also allies with Ethiopia, and they also supply military weapons to them. It says, and who? Libya. Who is Libya? Libya is ancient name in the scriptures is Put, P-H-U-T, which was one of the sons of Ham. All right, which is in northern Africa today. So I typed in relations between Russia and Libya. Russia has an embassy in Tripoli, with Libya having an embassy in Moscow. Diplomatic contact between Russia and Libya has generally been close and productive, seeing as both countries have had and continue to see volatile relations with the United States, Babylon the Great, America. Let's see, what are Libya's allies? Nigeria, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Switzerland, Union for the Mediterranean. All right. Of course it is. All right, so let's go back. So far we tackled Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, Cush, and Libya put with them. All of them with shield and what? And helmet. This is dealing with militaries of the earth. Remember, the Lord said he mustereth the hosts of the battle. The Most High Yahweh is the one that's amassing these militaries, these armies in the Middle East right now to bring forth the fulfillment of the Valley of Jehoshaphat, which the word Jehoshaphat goes back to the Hebrew phrase Yahweh Shaphat, which means Yahweh's judgment. There's also another word, Armageddon or Harmageddon, which means mountain of the troops. And this is what's happening right now. There is an amassing of these militaries coming together. At one point, these militaries of the world are going to stop fighting each other, and they're going to stop and look up into the heavens, and they're going to see Yahweh Shai and the angels coming back in the chariots, so-called UFOs, and they're going to stop what they're doing because Yahweh Shai is about to ruin and turn and fight against the Lord, and that's when they will get eviscerated. All right. So it goes on to say Gomer and all his bands. The bands is a representation of military or militaries. All right. America has what, 6 six heads, or however you call, six branches of the military, the latest being the Space Force. So all of the militaries of Gomer are going to come together. Now, where is Gomer located? Gomer is located in what's known today as Turkey. You have Gomer. All right. Then we have, and the house of Togarmah in of the north quarters, right? And Togarmah is also located in Turkey. And this is north of Israel. Israel's down this way, down here. All right. It says, and all his bands and many people with thee. So what I did was I typed in relations between Russia and Turkey. Economic and trade relations constitute the driving force behind Turkish-Russian relations. Russia has been one of the most important trade partners of Turkey, or Turkia. Inside joke. Elder Apostle Gabar knows what I'm talking about. This restaurant we go to. Trade volume between two states has reached 26 billion 309 thousand USD in 2019 with Turkia, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of trade that goes on between Russia and Turkey. Now, Turkey is a part of NATO, and Turkey, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they have the biggest military in NATO. Each one of those countries of NATO all have militaries, but Turkey has the largest. So Turkey really doesn't necessarily need Russia for military support, but they do trade within each other. And this is why Turkey is pretty much saying, fuck America, fuck NATO. You motherfuckers are fucking up my thing in my house. You coming up in my house, So it says Russia-Turkey relations are bilateral relations. Let me see. Does Turkey have good relations with Russia? As a close partner of both Russia and Ukraine, Turkey is actively attempting to broker a peaceful solution to the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine and has hosted a number of high-profile negotiations between the two countries. Right here. How many Russians are in Turkey? According to the Ministry of the Interior, as of data on November 3rd, 2022, it's the year of our Lord Yahweh Bashem turning up, Russian citizens are the second highest number of foreign residents residing in Turkey on long term, 115,365, and short term, 95,431 residency permits. All right. Let's see what else we got. Because it says here, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarter, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared. This is the Lord speaking to Gog, the land of Magog. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself. Let's see what else we got over here. Oh, Salakia. So I typed in, does Russia sell weapons to Turkey? It says Turkey and Russia signed an agreement for Moscow to supply Ankara with advanced S-400 surface-to-air missile batteries, according to a December so forth. And I can't click on it because they want you to accept some shit. And I'm like, hell to no. Now listen, Turkey snubs NATO with Russian arms deal. You see? So pretty much Turkey is not supposed to be doing business with Russia because America put sanctions on them. And the people, I mean, America's suffering a little bit, but the people that are really suffering the most are those NATO countries, those so-called European countries, because they're the ones that were doing business with Russia for whatever, oil, gas, whatever they had, arms trade. In the case of Turkey gets certain batteries and stuff from Russia, so there's a whole host of things going on. Let's see what else we got. Turkey to go ahead with Russian weapons purchases. Check that out. Turkey to go ahead with Russian weapons purchases despite U.S. objections. And remember, there's going to come a point where the NATO members that are allies with America are going to turn on America. You know, which really that goes back to the EU, which I don't believe. No, Turkey is not a part of the EU. But don't be surprised if Turkey turns around and starts blasting, Babylon the Great also. Because the ones that are suffering are those nations that are over there, based off of America's, sanctions. It says Turkey is threatening to go ahead with Russian military purchases despite warnings from Washington. The threat comes as the impasse between the NATO members deepens over Ankara's purchase of a Russian missile system, as you can see right here. All right. With Washington stepping up its pressure on Ankara to reverse its purchase of the Russian S-400 missile defense system, Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar this month defended its intentions, dismissing American concerns. You see? So they're like, look, man, we already see, we seen you coming a mile away, Joker. It says this is not an offensive system, Ankar said, adding this system can't threaten anyone in any way where it is deployed. It is not a risk, threat, or danger to anyone, the official said. Washington says the S-400 missile advanced radar poses a threat to NATO defense system and calls for its removal. But Ankara has said it is considering purchasing more batches of the Russian missiles. One source close to the government says Turkey has already struck a deal with Moscow. So on and so forth. So this is showing you that according to prophecy, everything is right on time. Everything is coming together as it was meant to be by the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right. Let's see what was this here. All right. Now it says, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee. Right. So the companies are the militaries, because you have squads, you have platoons, you have companies, which is a conglomeration of all of them together. Now, in the case of Russia and her allies, all of those militaries combined together that are assembled unto thee, that are pretty much allying themselves with you. And be thou what? A guard unto them. When you look up this word guard, the word there is shamar, which the word shamar means to watch. You see, so Russia has vested interest in these countries. Therefore, Russia is going to protect them, give them whatever it is that they need in order for them to stay friendly with Russia. Why? Because the Lord put it into their hearts to do so. Let's go real quick to the book of, what is that? Proverbs 16. It says the preparation of the heart in man and the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. So whatever man does, he's doing it because the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is putting it into their minds to do. Let's go one more. Proverbs 21 and 1. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water. He turneth it whithersoever he will. Let's go from there to the book of Job, chapter 33. I gotta punch these keys pretty hard, so just bear with me. 15. In a dream, in the vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, and slumberings upon the bed. So when you're in REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, Elder Pastor was just speaking about, dreams. Then he opened the ears of men. What are their ears? It's not talking about the two things that are on each side of your head. It's talking about the brain, the function of the brain, where your spirit is. So he openeth the ears of men and sealeth their instructions. So every night when everyone goes to sleep, the Lord programs what the next day is going to bring. This is why Yahweh said, take no thought for tomorrow shall take thought of itself, for sufficient for the day is the evil thereof. It says, and sealeth their instruction, that he may withdraw man from his purpose and hide pride from man. Right, because ultimately if the plans you have do not go according to the plans of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, well, guess what? Those plans are not going to pan out. That's why you're like, damn, man, you know, I had this plan, I had that plan. For some reason, it went south. Yeah, because the Lord wasn't with the plans. That's why it says, Lord will. You know, if the Lord wills, we will do so and so and such and such. He keepeth back his soul from the pit, and his life from the perishing, his life from perishing by the sword. You know, so you get the idea. So the Lord is the one sealing the instructions. The Lord is the one that prepares the hearts. The Lord is the one that's guiding and manipulating the minds and the thoughts of men to accomplish what he wants them to accomplish. So Russia is being a guard unto these allied nations, even though Gomer and Togomar are not technically their allies, but they have good relations with Russia, which technically they are, even though they're not, because Turkey is really a part of NATO, but really Turkey is really a part of Russia, if you really want to get down to the nuts and bolts of it. It says, after many days thou shalt be visited, in the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword. Right. The latter years is talking about right now in America. I'm sorry. The latter years is talking about right now in these times. That's what I meant to say. Thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword. That's dealing with America. They're going to also go into the land of Israel, you know, which is talking about the land of Israel. But also America is going to be invaded also. And is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, right, because they're going to come against the mountains of Israel, or the government structures that are in the land of Israel today, that are set up in the land of Israel, and that pretty much the scriptures say that the people that are there now are not the Lord's people, although you have a big community of Israelites that live there, which Lord's will get to that. It says, which have been always waste. Right. So the Lord is going to cause this pretty much, because the land of Israel is really not flourishing because the people of the Lord are not really there, even though you have some that are there. So the Lord is going to cause Russia to totally annihilate it and rebuild it back up from scratch. It says, which have always been waste, but it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Right. Because when Yahushua comes back, he said, before he left, he said, and Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So we're coming down to that time where the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled, their time of rulership. These nations. So Yahushua is coming back to claim his kingdom back and to reestablish righteousness back upon the earth. And he's going to remove all of those imposters that are in the land and that are around the world that are pretty much keeping the seat warm for him. It says, thou shalt ascend and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land. Thou and all thy bands, meaning all of your militaries and your allies, and many people with thee, right? Because you have your allies. India is a part of that. China is a part of that. Because they're all a part of, because the so-called Indians are a part of the Persians, you know, and then China is going to get involved. They're going to get in the mix because they have strong relations with Russia. So, man, America is finished. The only thing that's keeping this place going is that the Lord still needs this place to finish fulfilling prophecy. That's it. Once they go past that threshold of prophecy, the Most High don't need you no more. He's going to drop you like a bad habit. So it said, thus saith the Lord power, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, it shall also come to pass that at the same time, right, while you're watching over these nations, you know, giving them weapons, you know, getting prepared for this final battle, it says that at the same time shall things come into thy mind. Why? Because the Lord is going to manipulate their mind. You know, to get somewhat of an idea about that, go to the book of Daniel 10 and read the book of Daniel 10. How this Persian king, I believe it was Cyrus, if I'm not mistaken, was very strong-willed, and the Lord had to convince him, had to work heavy on his mind to convince him. He could have just snapped his finger, but that's the way the Lord chose to do it, to convince this man's mind to do his will. And this is what the Lord is doing right now with Russia. He's going to bring them back to that former state of how they used to be, and he's going to bring back those unions back together with those different nations that were once a part of the USSR until it broke up. So it says, and thou shalt think an evil thought, right? And that evil thought is what? They're gonna say, you know what? It's time. Because if you really get down to it, if anyone in their right mind, nobody wants to be the first to shoot off a nuclear missile, because they know that could mean, in their eyes, that could mean the end of the whole earth. Even though we know better than that. But this is pretty much the sentiment of all these nations. So what's going to happen is the Lord is going to make them push the button. Hit the button. He's going to make them hit that button. It says, and thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. What is the land of unwalled villages? America. They have no missile defense system. This is why they're scrambling to try to get something. And even if they get something that works, the scriptures say when the Lord shoots those missiles, ain't nothing going to stop those missiles, because the Spirit of the Lord is going to be upon them. In Joel 2nd chapter, it says even if when those missiles hit the nuclear missiles, they're just going to go right through it, because the Spirit of the Lord is going to be upon them things, because that's one of his militaries, one of his strong militaries. I will go to them that are at rest, right? Because America, everybody's, living deliciously, faring sumptuously. These good times have made weak men. And like the saying goes, weak men make hard times. And hard times make strong men. And strong men make good times. And the whole cycle keeps going around. Back during the 30s, when the stock market crashed in 29, from that point on, people were made hard in America. They lived a hard life. They were scraping, scratching and scraping to get by. So you had to knuckle up, knuckle down, and that created hard men. So if you look at some of those pictures of those people back then, whatever is still available, and you look in their eyes, you could see that piercing look. It was really no good times back then like that. So the look in people's eyes was a look of desperation or a look of hardness from the times that they were subjected to be in or under. Today, you look in people's eyes, you see folly. You don't see, a person that is hard. Like when you look at these so-called third world countries, and you look at the children, you could have a little girl, a little boy, 6, 7, 8 years old, and you look in their eyes, they have a look of somebody that's 50 years old because of the hardships that they were brought into at a very young age. So the Lord is going to put that spirit in Esau, to do these things. So, because this place is at rest. So it's time to pay. It says, I will go to them that are at rest and that dwell safely. Yeah, because nuclear war is never going to happen. It says, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. Yeah, because in the ancient world, you had gates around the city, or walls around the city, and then you had gates. This is why Constantinople took so long to destroy, because they was in such a strategic place and their walls were strong. But eventually what happened? They were breached by the Ottoman Turks and they were taken down. Just like Jerusalem eventually was breached. Just like Masada was eventually breached. Because they kept fighting against it until they brought it down completely. Why? Because the fury of the Lord was upon these individuals to do that. Because the Lord had to fill prophecy. Because he's not a man that he should lie. It says to take a spoil and to take a prey, to turn thine hand upon these desolate places that are now inhabited. Right? Because eventually these places are going to be desolated. When you read further down in this chapter, it tells you how the Lord is going to bring that destruction upon the land of Israel and upon the people that are gathered out of the nations, which have gotten cattle and goods that dwell in the midst of the land. So America is going to be totally annihilated. The land of Israel is going to be totally annihilated. Sheba and Dedan. Now, where is Sheba and Dedan located? Sheba and Dedan are located in so-called Arabia. And Russia has, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I had typed that in, but I don't know why I don't have it. I believe Russia has relations with Saudi Arabia. Just bear with me 1 second. I thought I had the relationship between Russia and involved the Saudi crown prince. Yeah. I thought I had this, but I guess not. So this is Dedan and Sheba, according, to this map. It could be further down, or it could be the expansion. There's another map that had them a little further down. But nevertheless, we know that it's in the land of Arabia. The so-called Ishmaelites, of this area. All right? And whatever they inhabit, because, you had Hamites that inhabited certain parts of Arabia. You had Ishmaelites, and you had the Midianites, and then you had different ones. All right? What am I looking for? Right here. It says the relations between Russia and Saudi Arabia further evolved under Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, granting the two nations the ability to conspire in oil export decisions. Russia is currently a major exporter of refined fuels to the Saudis and other Middle Eastern countries. All right. So going back, Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish, which is Spain, and you have Russia has dealings with Spain, because I believe Russia was supplying Spain with certain energy or something along those lines. I don't remember all the particulars. It says, with all the young lion thereof shall say unto thee, art thou come to take a spoil? Hast thou gathered thy company to take a prey? Because eventually, when this war goes down, if you need supplies, if y'all allies, you got to supply each other. It says to carry away silver and gold and to take away cattle and goods to take a great spoil. Now it goes on to say, therefore, son of man, prophesy and say unto Gog, thus saith the Lord power, in that day when my people of Israel dwelleth safely, shalt thou not know it, because the Lord eventually is going to deliver us and bring us back to that land. All right. It says, and thou shalt come from thy place out of the north parts. This is in the last days. North parts, because we saw here in the map that they're up in the north. The Russians. It says, thou and many people with thee, all of them riding upon horses, a great company and a mighty army. You see? Because the Lord he got America, Canada, and her allies, NATO, EU, and then you have Russia, China, and all of those other different nations that we spoke about. You have the Shanghai Corporation, you have the BRICS nations, and other allies that they have. They even have allies, I guess you could say, for lack of better words, secret allies that are openly secret allies or something like that in Turkey and other European nations. So it goes on to say, and thou shalt come against my people of Israel. Now, the people in the land of Israel today are not the Israelites. Those rats fleeing from a sinking ship. All right, so, but you do have Israelites within that land. Because years ago we thought that this was speaking about an ancient time, but this is future prophecy. Like I said, I'll speak for myself. I believe used to believe this was talking about back then. I've heard it also, but I don't, I couldn't give you the particulars on it. But this is dealing with these times now. So what does it say? And thou shalt come up against my people Israel, because you do have Israelites there, although the people that are there calling themselves them guys are not the people of the Lord. Now, what I did was I typed in, African Americans in Israel, right? And this came up. There's other articles. It says African Americans in Israel number at least 25,000. And this, I'm pretty sure there's a lot more than that. This is just a number they're throwing out. It says comprise several separate groups, including a group of African American Jews who have migrated from the United States to Israel, making Aliyah non-Jewish African Americans who have immigrated to Israel, which they are Israelites, for personal or business reasons, pro athletes who formerly played, so on and so forth. You can read the rest of this. I think I put this in the description box. Then it goes on down here. It says, in addition, there is a large community of black Hebrew Israelites numbering at least 5,000 people who originally immigrated to Israel from Chicago in the 1960s and lived mostly in the southern Israeli town of Dimona. All right? So there's more than that. But as an estimate, there was 25,000. Like I said, it's got to be more. So you do have actual Israelites there, and even among those that are not, you have Israelites among them. And even some of those other nations that are claiming, some of them have Israelites among them, because Israel was scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. So in essence, you do have Israelites in there. And thou shalt come up against my people of Israel. Why? Because you're going to have certain Israelites still in that land. As a cloud to cover the land, it shall be in the latter days. All right? Latter days. And I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O Gog, before their eyes. Why? Because the Russians are going to be the ones that are going to bring forth this final destruction of that land. And the Lord is going to magnify himself in that. All right. It says, thus saith the Lord, power, art thou he of whom I have spoken in old time by my servants, the prophets of Israel, which prophesied in those days many years that I would bring thee against them. Right. Because the prophets spoke back then about it. Ezekiel was speaking about it. And now we're at the point now where this prophecy, which has to be at least 2,700 years old or more, is now coming or starting to speak. It's all coming together. And when it starts happening, then it's speaking loud and clear. So we see all of the major players in place. We see all of the major events happening. We see the major players that are united, by either being allies or being supplied, weaponry or having business relations. So it's all coming together. It says, for in my jealousy, matter of fact, I'll read here again. And it shall come to pass at the same time when God shall come up against the land of Israel, saith the Lord power, that my fury shall come up in my face, right? Because the Lord is going to remember. That's why it says Babylon has come to remembrance in the Lord's mind, or something like that in Revelation. So also the land of Israel, because they've taken over the land of the Lord's people with the joy of their whole heart, as it states in the scriptures. For in my jealousy and in the fire of my wrath have I spoken. Surely in that day there shall be a great shaking in the land of Israel. And what's going to bring that great shaking in the land of Israel? The missiles that are going to be pelting down on that land, which is going to be pelting down on the land of America and wherever else they hit in the world. That's going to cause such a vibration that's going to cause the whole earth to rock back and forth. It says, so that the fishes of the sea and the fowls of the heaven and the beasts of the field and all creeping things that creep upon the earth and all men that are upon the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. So the whole world is going to be so bad that even the birds in the air are going to be shaken. Because the vibration is going to be so strong, the birds are going to feel it in the air. The fish are going to feel it in the sea. No matter where men are at in the world, they're going to feel that terrible shake. The bomb shelters, they're going to feel the shake. But they're going to think that they're protected. Which they will be. They won't get harmed until they come out of there. It says, and the mountains shall be thrown down, which is what? The governments. Because this final war, World War III, is what's going to bring an end to all of these heathen empires. And they're going to be turned over to Yahushua because it's his kingdom. And he's sharing it with us. Shall be thrown down, and the steep places, which are, the mountains represent big governments, and the steep places represent the smaller governments. It says shall fall, and every wall shall fall to the ground. Right, so all of these defenses that have been set up are going to fail. Because the Lord's coming back. It says, and I will call for a sword against him throughout all my mountains, saith the Lord Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Every man's sword shall be against his brother, right? Because this is going to be the final war to end all wars. And the swords ain't talking about actual swords or, guns and all that. Even though they're going to be using that, it's talking about their major weaponry that the Lord gave them, which are these missiles, to bring forth the judgment of this place. It says, and I will plead against him with pestilence and with blood, and I will rain upon him and upon his bands, which are the militaries, and upon the many people that are with him. Right, all of those nations that were mentioned in this chapter. And overflowing rain and great hailstone, fire and brimstone, which are the missiles and the lasers from the chariots, cutting them down. Thus will I magnify myself and sanctify myself. And this is when the Lord Yahweh's name is going to be fully magnified once again for all eternity. And his son Yahweh's name. And his people, Yasha'Allah, the Israelites. So the Lord is going to magnify him. So this is why this devastation, destruction, and deliverance is going to outshine the destruction and the deliverance from Egypt. Now we understand what that means in Jeremiah the 16th chapter and Jeremiah 23. When it's not going to be said anymore that the Lord liveth that brought up the children out of Israel out of Egypt, but brought the children of Israel from the north country and from all of the places where they were scattered. So this thing that's coming, this devastation and salvation, is going to magnify Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua's name and his people. It says, and I will be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am the Lord, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say shalom, I pray that this lesson was edifying. Shalom.